Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Scott Lawson, certified business coach with ActionCOACH of Coastal Bend in South Texas, and I'll be your host today. I'm very excited to have our special guest, Andres Cardenas, on our show. Andres is the managing partner of Restoration One of Corpus Christi. Today, we're going to talk to Andres about his business, his journey to business ownership, some challenges, some successes. We'll have him share what it's really like to own and operate a business as an entrepreneur. If this is your first time on the channel, and even if it's not, be sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when we publish new content. Well, Andres, welcome to the show.
Hello, how's it going?
Great. We are so thrilled to have you on today, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on our podcast.
I appreciate your time, Scott.
So I'd love to talk about the business, but I'd first like to talk about you. Maybe you can just tell me and tell our audience how your journey started.
Absolutely. So I've always wanted to own my own business. And what I've kind of figured out when I was in college at UT Austin is kind of the basis of all business ownership is knowing your numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding where your expenses are going, where the revenue is coming, and at the end of the day, if you're profitable, top to bottom. So when I went to UT, I studied accounting, eventually got my master's in accounting and received my CPA. And I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Houston for oil and gas companies for a couple of years, trying to get my feet wet and understanding exactly what I was looking at. At the end of the day, I was a terrible accountant, so I had to make some adjustments there. But that goal of always owning the business was there. So I pretty much slept on a couch for 2 weeks at one of my now business partners' office in Austin, and I started the franchise of Restoration One in Central San Antonio. And after 3 years, I started the franchise of Restoration of Corpus Christi.
I see. Great. Well, that's interesting. Thanks for that that background and that information about how things started for you. Now let's talk about the business. Maybe you can tell us about Restoration One.
Absolutely. So we're a one-stop shop in the restoration world. I know it's a very niche market. Hopefully not many people have to go through this various times throughout their lives. But we deal with water damage, fire, mold remediation, and the rebuild portion of things. We are licensed mold contractors. So in the state of Texas, we're able to do any size mold job, from commercial to industrial to government work and to small home work. So top to bottom, we're able to be kind of your restoration service. We don't storm chase. We don't really go after hurricane situations. We mostly deal with small leaks underneath let's say your vanity, your toilet backup, frozen pipes during the freezes, and then obviously fire and mold remediation if that's needed.
Right. Kind of the bad news circumstances. A lot of times people go through tragedies whenever you come in, but sometimes you might catch them early.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Andres, let us know more about your particular role in the business. What's your day-to-day look like?
Well, now being almost 6 years into it, I'm out of the van, which is always a big thing, right? After the first year, I was out of the van. And now it's pretty much managing managers, right?
Okay.
We like to have the system where technicians report to a manager, and then the manager reports to the managing partner within each city, because theoretically we're in 3 cities: Austin, San Antonio, and Corpus. So it's me trying to help the manager at the mitigation side, me trying to help the managers on the construction side, and me trying to help the business development managers as well, and guide them as to exactly what the vision of the company is from start to finish. So it entails being on phone calls, working in accounting, working on invoicing, making sure the operations is running smooth, and really kind of instilling the vision and culture that we want to have within the various cities.
I see. So still have your hands in some of the accounting training that you had before, and what interested you initially in those areas, it sounds like. But the managing of people and managing of managers who manage people is a very, very important role. And I know at ActionCOACH, we focus a lot on training managers to be able to do that. We see so often people are put in a management role who were excellent at the skill or the trade or the particular task, but they might not have had any training in how to manage people. So yeah, I just hear you stepping in to try to help some of those who are in that middle management role, and that's a big focus of ours too. So yeah, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Let me hear from you a few of your mistakes along the way and what you learned from them. Maybe our business owner audience might be able to avoid reinventing the wheel if they can hear some of your story.
Well, I have made a lot of mistakes and I continue making mistakes. The thing is, obviously, learning from those mistakes. And it's
Right.
when I first started the business and everyone was like, oh, you got to learn from the mistakes. It's really hard to learn from the mistake if it happens to you once. But then when you start seeing the signs that that situation is happening again, then you start realizing, oh, okay, hey, this is the exact same path I'm going down. We got to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
A few mistakes are hiring too fast and firing too
Okay.
slow, right?
Oh.
Um, I understand that if there's a need to hire somebody within the company, is very important, and I might be or another manager might be carrying the load of that person if that person is not doing well. So the ability to hire fast is not it's not about the ability. It's not just hiring whoever comes through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, immediately put the job post up, immediately interview as many people as possible. But at the end of the day, once you actually make the decision, you got to take a deep breath and make that decision, knowing that that person is the right fit of the job. If he's not going to be a good part of the team, if that he or she has not accepted the role, accept the culture, and would be able to fulfill those responsibilities, then that search continues until you find that actual person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the biggest one is firing.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you don't want to fire somebody because the amount of work that you then will have to take on is significant. But as soon as you smell or feel that that person is not is either contaminating the rest of the team or is just not pulling their weight, then not only could you possibly cause damage to the company itself, but the people around them can start it can be contagious and cause an issue. So whenever you do have to fire somebody, nip in the bud, fire, move on. I promise that it's a temporary pain, but it's better to have that workload on you,
Mm-hmm.
and then really find somebody that really fits that role appropriately.
I concur wholeheartedly with that. You know, there's so much pressure on a business owner to fill the role, and the short-term gain might lead to long-term pain. And it
Correct.
is. I know there's a lot of pressure in both. I need this person on the job so that I can fulfill my responsibility to my customers and have this work done. And also, as you mentioned, I am taking on too much of this load myself, or I have other people that are taking on too much. And it seems like the quick fix is get the first person that comes through the door hired and put them in a role. But the long term ramifications of that can be just devastating. And you can look back on that day and realize, you know what, having delayed that a bit would have been a much better option. We try to put a few different things in place that are along the lines of what you were talking about. The hiring process can be daunting and even
Mhm.
the amount of time that it takes. So if you have
Correct.
to interview a half dozen people before you find the one that you hired, that was a significant investment on your part. And we try to help companies and business owners through the personality profiles that we do, the DISC analysis that
Mhm.
we will do to be able to find the right fit in a person's makeup and how they're wired for the particular role. And that's an interesting aspect. We also help managers interview multiple people at once. We have a system that we set up where instead of having one after the other, that takes up a lot of a manager's time or a hiring HR person's time, have it done so that they can do an interview of multiple people. And sometimes that will shorten the pain, there initially. But as you say, on the other end, it's so important to make sure that we do everything we can after the hire to train the people, make sure they understand everything that's involved in the role. If we hired the right people and we train them properly, we're in a much better position. But sometimes it still doesn't work out. And like you say, we can postpone too long that severing that relationship. So I think all that's so important, and business owners need to think about that early in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that.
Adding to that, because I really enjoy reading business books, and
Hmm.
there's no such thing as bad employees. It's just bad managers,
Hmm.
right? And I struggled a lot being a manager because it's especially well, I started the company I was a little younger compared to a lot of the employees I had, and I always gave them the benefit of the doubt, and I didn't, and I felt, oh, well, I do not
Hmm.
have that expertise, but at the end of the day if you're putting your heart and soul in the company, you know a lot of the details that other people can't see, right?
Hmm.
So that definitely kind of opened my eyes there on that front.
Hmm. Statistics show that most people who leave a job aren't leaving the company; they're leaving their boss. And
Correct.
it's just it's an important fact that sometimes we miss, because oftentimes as someone resigns, they won't list that as the reason. They may talk about, I found another job that pays more, or closer to home, or hours are better, or whatever, but underlying that often is the fact that I can't work for the person that I'm working for. And if we can, we have a master class that we'll do with managers, and if we can help train them in how to be a better manager, sometimes that has great dividends in lots of different areas. So yeah, that's wonderful. That's good advice, good information. What I've asked you to look back in time, Andres, at kind of mistakes that you might have made. Let me ask you to look forward in time a little bit. If your hopes and dreams come true in, let's say, 5 years, how will Restoration One look different?
Great question. So I'm currently working. I live in Houston, which has been a big curveball on my end. My wife is in the medical world, so we're in Houston now. So theoretically, I'm working remote. So 5 years from now, I would like to be able to come back and work outside of any of those two offices, San Antonio or Corpus. And driving 2 hours back and forth is very easy, right? And living in a place where the businesses are actually located is a lot better. Granted, I'm learning a lot how to work remotely, but um, within those 5 years, I would like to move back and grow and grow more territories, especially uh, around South Texas. I think there's a huge need for these type of services within South Texas, and to be able to educate a lot more people as to what this a small water damage can actually cost, right?
Mm,
And let the customers decide as to how they would like to proceed. Um, but being able to teach customers, hey, this small leak can really affect my house in the long term, and the ability to sell the house, the health of the people living in the house with mold
hmm.
growth. Because a lot of people, oh, that's a small leak. I'll put a fan in there and I'll take it out within 24 hours and see what happens. Right. So it's the ability to teach and have the brand growth. Not only does the revenue follow suit after that, right? But being able to really expand that knowledge and have being able to walk into a home and being able to realize, okay, you know what, this is my home. I understand the situations that could cause a big issue in my home, and this is how to resolve it. It makes a big difference because most of the time, homes and commercial buildings are literally the biggest investment of a
Hmm.
family, right?
Hmm.
So um, it's all about teaching, all about knowledge, and everything else will follow suit.
That's great. Yep, education's so important, even in this role. We need to be constantly learning, and oftentimes we can be teaching, others.
Absolutely.
And a well-educated customer is going to be able to make a much better decision. And again, some of that short-term, long-term stuff's coming into play here, isn't it? Because
Absolutely.
they also may make a bad decision based upon the short-term situation versus the long-term situation. So yeah, it's good to make sure they think that through, and get the advice of someone who really knows.
Correct.
Andres, I'm going to ask you about success. When you think about success, who's the first person that comes to mind, and why?
Uh, I it's really hard for me to pinpoint a person. I always like to see people that are happy in their
Mm-hmm.
role.
Mm-hmm.
People that have when you're happy in whatever you're doing, you have freedom, in my opinion. Um, Well, the person I really looked up to was my father because he's always owned a business or two, and he's had the freedom to be able to, hey, I have a basketball game. I'm gonna go watch my son
Hmm.
see a
Hmm.
basketball game.
Hmm.
So it's not about the financial of, well, obviously it's most, in order to be successful, there's some financial aspect to it,
Hmm.
right? But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's about the freedom to be able to have that happiness in your life, that you want to go to work, or you like helping people, or you have that time that where, hey, I need to step back a little bit and really take time for my family, right? In certain situations or friends. Um, I think success is more on the freedom side rather than on the financial side, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
I love
I've
that.
seen my dad and now my mom be able to be in that role.
Uh-huh. That's wonderful. Yeah. And what a role model they are for you if they have emphasized the happiness and the freedom to help you understand where to prioritize things. Because if you just prioritize that financial success, that may not create the happiness. And I love your idea of using that word freedom. Even earlier today, I was coaching a client that was the main word that kept coming up. You know, in his goals, we have his freedom. You know, being able to be
Correct.
free of long hours in the workplace, or free of the uncomfortable, or even tasks that are not necessarily just uncomfortable, but they are not even he's not even the right person to be doing those things, you know, and be able to have the freedom to put someone in place that can, and then for him to be able to spend time with family with and the other things that he enjoys. So I agree. Freedom is a good analogy, or even maybe synonym for success.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I did have a pillow and a duvet cover in my car, and I slept on couches for about
Mm.
6 months, right? And for example, yesterday I worked till 9 p.m. at the office. So there are some times that you have to put in that
Hmm.
work, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you understand, hey, this is my work period in order to
Hmm.
be able to reap the benefits of hopefully being free on weekends or so on and so forth.
Yeah, good point. I mean, when we strive for freedom and we have freedom as a goal, that doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. You know,
Correct.
there may be responsibilities that cause us to have to avoid certain amount of freedom. But if we are striving for that, and that's where we know we're headed, it can give us focus and help us be able
Correct.
to really attain that type of success that brings happiness, that can help someone really focus on the right things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So getting back to Restoration One, what would you say differentiates Restoration One from others in the industry?
We really enjoy that emphasis of taking care of the client to the specifications of our governing body, which is the IRCRC, right? The IRCRC is they give us templates of what needs to be done when a catastrophe happens. A water damage happens, these are the guidelines that need to be taken care of. Mold, fire, there's a lot of thought and processes that go into this governing body that should be replicated on every single job,
Hmm.
and it's very difficult to really emphasize and to really instill those policies within all of our employees. But at the end of the day, that's what differentiates us: the quality of work that we produce.
I see.
We're not preferred vendors with insurance companies. We work for the homeowner. It's hard to fight a multi-billion-dollar company, right? When we're just a small little minion within the world. When leads come in and there's water damage, but being able to show proof that we did exactly what needed to be done,
Hmm.
with photos that are timestamped, with citing OSHA requirements, with citing IRCRC requirements, and providing that not only to the client but to the insurance adjuster is huge, right?
Hmm.
And giving the homeowner the peace of mind that what we did was exactly what was needed to be done in order to keep their home or business um, to the quality standard that they deserve.
Hmm. So important to have processes in place with the right documentation or methods of proving certain things were done. I mean, more so in some industries than in others, but with the type of regulation and requirements that you deal with, I'm certain that that's a very important part of it.
Absolutely. It's all about
Yeah.
documentation on our end. Photos, documentation, moisture readings. It's top to bottom.
Yeah.
That's our biggest thing.
That's interesting. So if you could do it all over, what would you do differently?
If I would have this exact same knowledge that I have now.
Yeah, let's play that scenario out.
Okay. Um, I would take the same risk, right? I
Oh,
would burn
okay.
I would burn the bridges and jump 2 feet into the water. Uh, but I would mm, try to build a team that is a better support system for me when I first start off.
Okay.
I feel that I hired out of just urgency to get somebody on board to help me out,
Okay.
rather than hiring somebody that would be a good asset not only to the team but to the homeowners, to the business owners that we were facing. So I think surrounding myself with a better team in terms of employees, which are our team members from start to finish, is better because I it took a while to realize when em employees were not right good for the overall success of the
Mm-hmm.
company.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Good. That's good advice. Interesting. If now we may be talking to some people who are at that earlier stage, and hearing that from you might help them kind of reassess their situation on who they hire and how they build their team initially. That's great.
Yeah, building the culture is the most important. Your
Mm-hmm.
vision has to be exactly what the culture of the company should be, and if you take that, and you have to take responsibility of that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't
And
just leave it up to somebody else.
I agree with you so much, but it takes forward thinking. Sometimes people
Correct.
go into a business without even considering the culture, and
Correct.
they're just going to play it by ear. And maybe at some point in time in the future, I'll deal with that. Well, if you've got it in place initially, then every employee that comes on board understands that culture. They can contribute to it. You can get people that are appropriate for that particular culture, and then you don't have to make an about face later on in the business, but you've got that established. So thinking into the future of what will this business look like includes the culture and even an org chart, maybe even understanding, well,
Correct.
I may only have a few employees today, but here's where I want to be, and what will it look like? Well, if you have that in your plan, you can begin to build toward that so that you're in a much better place than just having to hire the next person that fills the next role and no real long-term plan. So yeah, I love that. Culture
Absolutely.
is of significance that people often don't understand until they're well into the business ownership.
Correct. And what you just mentioned about org charts, we used to think it was a dumb idea to make an org chart, but we actually just started making one last year.
Oh,
And once you actually see the org chart in front of you, you're able to see, okay, you know what? Actually, this person can actually be moved
mhm.
on this side because of that skill set, right? You're able to
Yes.
actually understand what you're looking at, and put ideas up, right, with an actual game plan with
Yeah.
an org chart. Because I always thought we always thought it was silly. It's just a couple of
Uh-huh.
triangles and squares and octagons, right? But no, it makes a huge
Yeah,
difference.
it really does. And it's part of that planning process, I guess. But when you have a visual aid like an org chart and maybe even a future org chart, it really helps you see a lot of things. So as you were saying, if this is a role that needs to be filled, do I have somebody already in my organization that is ideal for that? And things like the disc profile or the other analyses that we might do would help answer that question, but also just experience. Sometimes you just recognize this person is better suited to a different role, and I've got that role. So how
Correct.
how can I avoid putting those two together? But it's not that obvious until you have some kind of a visual tool, to bring that about. The other thing I love about the future thinking of it is, so often business owners recognize if this is what the org chart will eventually look like, and I'll have somebody over HR, I have somebody over operations, I will have someone over marketing, I'll have someone over the financial side of things. But if they look at what this role needs to eventually be, they might recognize pretty quickly, I'm wearing a lot of those hats today myself.
Correct.
Which of those is the best fit for me as the business owner? and maybe I can focus on finding people or training people, or maybe training myself for some of these other areas that I'm currently not the best person to fill. So it just, again, it just gives so much more clarity to where are we headed, and what would be a good way to fill that gap, the gap between where we are today and where we want to be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else as we near the end of this podcast that we haven't covered? Another topic or another piece of information that you would like to share?
No, I really enjoy uh, running a business and making a team and seeing team members succeed and grow within the company and actually hire from within it. It's awesome. It's fun.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Andres, how can our audience get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can Google Restoration One of Corpus Christi, or Google Restoration of Central San Antonio. You can call any of those phone numbers by all means. We're open 24/7. So if you have any questions or concerns, and we always provide a free assessment. If it has to be Saturday, Sunday, we understand that people work from 8 to 5, or people have school activities with their kids and whatnot. We're able to get there whenever you all need us to get there, and adjust our schedule accordingly in order to provide you that peace of mind whenever we go out there and assess.
Okay. Well, we'll put some of that information in the show notes too for the podcast, so people can just click on a link and be able to get through to you and find out more about the either Central San Antonio Restoration One or Restoration One of Corpus Christi.
That's correct. And throw in Restoration of One of Austin as well if you ever go up north.
All right. Sir. Restoration One of Austin as well. All right. Great. Andres, thank you for your story. This has been very interesting. I hope that the audience finds it informative. I'm sure they will, and find value in this for them and their own businesses and their own interests as well. This is the Business Spotlight Series with Scott Lawson from Action Coach of Coastal Bend and Andres Cardenas of Restoration One. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you can continue to see great content. Thank you for watching or listening today. Bye for now.
Thank you, Scott.
And out. All right. Good job, Andres. Now, at the beginning, I heard a couple dings, and I think they were on my end. I didn't do a very good job of making sure I had stuff turned off. Did you hear them?
I believe I heard one, if I'm not mistaken, but it was very, very low, and I don't think it was an issue.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't stop right then and restart, but I felt like sometimes when I will hear one, it doesn't even come out in the recording. So I'm not sure. Zoom seems to have a pretty good, I don't know exactly what it is, a sound analysis or a sound something. We used to have a bell we would ring when certain good things would happen, and on Zoom calls we would all hear that. You can't hear it anymore. If you ring a bell, it's silent on here, and dogs barking. Zoom somehow has technology to take a lot of the dog barks out. Well, I think sometimes these chimes that I hear, and I think, oh no, that was recorded. But somehow I think they take those out. But
yeah,
all right.
I mean, I guess they use that money that they gained during COVID when everyone was using Zoom on R&D, right?
Maybe so. That was what timing that was. Well,
yes, sir.
I guess. I say timing. Zoom had been around for a little bit, but boy, COVID was perfect for them. It was not very many people had heard of them. So good deal. Now, we had told you about our growth clubs that are happening this week, didn't we? We have one.
You hadn't, but I did see your email.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've got the one in Port A on Friday that we'd love to see you come to, but this is pretty short notice. If you saw it, I don't know what your Friday looks like, but that'd be a fun time to be with other business owners and go through a little exercise there to have a 90-day plan for your business too.
No, I would love to, but I'm dealing with the injury for my wife, and I need to go take care of that situation.
Yeah. I said as our thank you for doing the podcast, we would offer free business coaching. And I'd love to send you a couple documents to kind of get that process started. Just little things to fill out. One is just to check some boxes, and another is a questionnaire that that kind of helps us kind of get that process started. And we always start with what we call a discovery call. So I think I'll email you a link to where you can pick a time for a discovery call and those blank documents that you could complete and see when we might be able to schedule that. And even some of the things we talked about here, you know, you might want to keep in mind, when I mention a management class, a 12-week management class, we meet 1 hour a week for those 12 weeks. It's usually one weekday, Tuesday or Thursday at maybe 4 o'clock, that we'll meet for 12 weeks with a manager that then they have homework, you know, to kind of go through. And at the end of it, it helps a lot of those people we were talking about that might have had a trade or a task or a skill that they were good at, but managing people's kind of a new thing for them. You'd enjoy it. Other managers that you have, you know, in the organization could too. I can't tell you exactly the dates, but I think it's going to start in late April or early May. And if you're interested, I'll try to make sure you got information on that too.
Absolutely. That works. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing this. 2 or 3 weeks from now, you'll get the links, and hope you'll share them as much as you can, and we'll share them too. And I owe you an email to get some of these other things set up, and we'll take it from there. I love to work with you. Get some of these.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Plan. All right.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Andres. I'm gonna.
Have a good one.
I heard from Moses this morning. He invited me to come speak about business coaching to one of the insurance groups. Tomorrow, he's got Farmers Insurance that he's doing a presentation with, I guess. And but the timing just won't work for us because we're doing that growth club in San Antonio. But I told him that is exactly the kind of thing that would be great to cooperate on, where you guys have some business owners like that you're speaking to, and we have, you know, the opportunity to just share with them things about us. Growth club would be that the other way, where you'd be able to meet some people that are in our circle that you'd be able to, you know, let them know about your what you offer too. So that'd be, you know, I'd love to collaborate in those areas where we can. So
yes, sir. That works for me.
All right.
All righty.
Talk
Have a good one.
later.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.